Very warm welcome to everybody. I am absolutely delighted to be chairing today. As Andrew says, we want 5 at 5 to be as interactive and as fun as possible. So the side chat is open to all, so please take advantage. Say hi, ask whatever questions, have whatever you need to do in terms of side chats. I'm delighted to see so many of you. I'm genuinely grateful to Minds and Money for affording us these kind of opportunities to connect from the comfort of our armchairs. And it's especially lovely today to see the diversity of women in the audience too. Women in mining, keep it coming. I've actually wondered if I'd even recognize anyone since we've been rewilding at home now on our own for so long. So on that note, let us shift straight to our first 5 at 5 interactive poll. Mina, over to you. Could you bring up our questions, please? So everybody, what is the worst thing about being in lockdown? Not being able to have a haircut. We've just been discussing that one. Not being able to go to the pub. Not being able to get your eyes tested unless you're Dominic Cummings. That's a very UK-centric. Running out of good old toilet roll, or running out of shows to watch on Netflix. I have to say I'm really bored by shows available. So yeah, now while I'm waiting for this, for me it's actually been the no dentist. While you're voting, let me run through the lineup for today. So we have Matthew O'Kane, who's calling in from Perth at 12 a.m. rather, Comet Resources, which is an exciting base metals, industrial and precious metals company with projects in Mexico and Australia. We have Aneel Waraich from Steppe Gold, which is Mongolia's premier gold mining opportunity. We have Greg, not Russell, Crowe from Silver One Resources, a company with silver projects in Nevada and Arizona. And then from our investment panel, we have Chen, who is CEO of the Chen Asset Management Company and as well author of his own What is Chen Buying and Selling newsletter, which is fantastic. And then we also have Miranda Werstiuk from OCIM Precious Metals, an investor as well as co-vice chair of Women in Mining Toronto, hopefully nominating plenty of fabulous women in mining for the Global Influence 100. And as well, she is a former virus hunter. So she's a woman of many talents. There we go. Now, Mina, over to the first poll results, please. What are we looking at here? So most people have been the pub and then the haircut. I've been amused by the haircut issues, people putting salad bowls on top of their heads and cutting around them. It's been a desperate situation. There we go. Okay, so look, continuing on, I think that the nicest thing is actually just being able to review with the panel some of the key mining stories over the past few weeks that have caught the eyes of our two investors. Miranda, first of all to you, in this world that's wheeling and whirring amid the surreal and the improbable with so much macro and micro going on, which particular news story is capturing your attention over the past few weeks?
Well, actually, there were two that I that I saw. The first one was a report that came out from Wood Mackenzie in the last couple of days about the need for funding over the next 5 years to bring online greenfield projects and restarts, which was what they estimated to be $37 billion as we move forward here. A discussion around peak gold, where we were going, and then COVID hit. And essentially operations, exploration in most jurisdictions were switched off. The companies just full on stopped. And that got me to thinking, you know, I come from a background of 25 years as an investment banker and now working for a family office. You know, where are we going to find that money, and how is that capital going to be deployed? How do we assess those projects? They indicated 44 projects to come on stream. So that was a very interesting sort of, you know, what are we looking at in terms of capital? And that's just 44 projects, you know, around the world. And then the other one that caught my attention that was in Forbes was the whole issue around responsible sourcing of gold and what's happened with the Perth Mint. I sit on a board for the Planet Gold program, which is part of the United Nations and the Jeff Gold program to eradicate mercury use globally. And artisanal scale mining is the largest user of mercury on the planet. And so from the sourcing of gold perspective, as a family, obviously looking for a physical commodity, then this is not a new issue, you know, but it came to light because how do we actually, trace the commodity? It's not just gold, but it's cobalt. It's all the commodities that come out of the ground. How do we trace them? How do we ensure there's no child labor? I mean, it opens up a whole other conversation. But that was interesting to me as an investor now, looking to access commodity. How do we ensure that what we're getting, we know what we're getting?
Yeah, agreed. It was actually quite surprising, the Perth Mint story, and goes obviously to the heart of social license. So very, very key. And also,
Yep.
Chen, leading over to you. What have been keeping you awake with news lately?
Yeah, I'm an investor, so I'm more looking at the investment news point of view. This week, there's a major news, but the market really doesn't care that much because it's summer. If you notice, Kinross, after 2 years of negotiation, reached a deal with the Mauritanian government on their Tasiast mine. Okay, that's a big news, right? So it's a Muslim republic. They have been struggle to reach a deal for the past 2 years. Now they reach a deal. Part of it, you have to sign COVID. So what I found was after COVID, there seems to be the government, all the governments seem to have a different attitude towards mining because they need jobs, right? All these tourism are gone, travel, all these, there's a restaurant are down. So mining become essential business. You can see from Peru, even they're very bad, they still open all their mines, to Africa, to everywhere. Even in the United States, Nevada, the mining also is essential. They declare mining essential business. So I feel from after this COVID, well, eventually we'll get over that. With it, mining seems to become more and more important on the government agenda. So that's very, very good for the mining industry in general. You can see they could be more easier. A lot of projects could get easier to get permit. Okay, and then there could be more collaboration from the government. Those are huge, huge for the mining company. And then we're going to talk to a company in Mongolia. I'm pretty sure Mongolia has a very different attitude now versus only a year ago. So we'll hear all the different stories, but I think we seem to enter a golden age for mining.
Yay. All right. Well, I like that one too. So some really good ones. Capital deployment. Where's the capital coming from? What are we doing about making sure sourcing is right, and social ESG, social license issues? And then also, hopefully, we're going to have arms wrapped around us a little bit more because tourism is out. I think that's actually a fabulous theme, Chen. So now I'd like to move over onto our first mining update. We've got gold up for discussion first. So thinking caps on everybody. Mina, please could you bring up our second poll? Gold is trading, I think right now around 1721 an ounce. It's rallied up from 1560 in early Jan. What price do you all expect to see gold at the end of 2020? We have below 1600, above 22, and a range in between. While you're all voting and considering your answer, let me introduce you next to Aneel. He is Canadian with over 15 years in capital markets. He is founder and managing partner of ATMA Capital Markets. He is joining us today as Executive Vice President and Director of Steppe Gold. Steppe Gold is listed on the TSX with gold assets based in Mongolia along the Bayan-Komgor belt. Its share price is near record highs following first gold pour just as we were going into lockdown. Great timing there, Aneel. It's making quite a name for itself as an exciting new junior with plenty of upside growth to tap. Mina, first of all, results looking like, okay, so everybody's thinking gold is still heading upwards. And it's interesting. We've got the Fed planning to hold rates till the end of 2022, and we have geopolitics getting wider and nastier by the day. So that kind of suggests that there's still upside potential. And then perhaps even to Miranda's point about a lack of gold capital, yeah, it's going to be interesting times. So now over to you, Aneel. Stock prices rallied. Let's tell us, please, what's going on and what's coming up.
Sure. Thanks, Melinda. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to join us. Yeah, so we've been lucky enough to bring our production online, obviously in a very tough time. So we were very lucky, like I mentioned earlier, that Mongolian government proactively really geared down and closed the borders, restricted travel, closed non-essential businesses, the schools. And so they really had limited cases in country. And that allowed for our team to continue to operate. We were mining, stacking, crushing all through the winter. And of course, we had safety measures in place. So roll around March, we wanted our chemicals in country, and we were able to get it in March and start leaching right at the end of March. And April, we produced, and we've been producing ever since. So I guess we couldn't have timed it better in terms of gold and people looking at gold again, finally. And of course, being able to generate cash flow is obviously a big deal now. We're not at the mercy of the markets. We can fund all of our growth. We have a lot of exploration ahead of us, a phase 2 development, and here we are pretty much wrapping up our first quarter of production and ramp up, and we'll update the market on how that's been going, which has obviously been going well. We've had, I think, having a full Mongolian team in place where you're not relying on expats has obviously benefited us as a company. So we had no delays, and we have a very skilled local workforce. So it's been really good.
You've got 4 discoveries, I think, that you've got to still be checking out. How are you going to rank those?
Well, we're actually going to start trenching first. So it's a very large package, 14,400 hectare package. One of the discoveries is about 3 kilometers by half a kilometer. So in early July, we'll get the trenching first to help de-risk some of the drilling, but then we'll just start from, I think, a Milky Way target and work our way down throughout July and August. So it's very exciting to finally get back to exploration, because when you're building a mine, nobody cares. They want to see that you can build the first one, and now we have, and now it's go time. I guess we have a very strong market, and we want to get to our more aggressive aspirations of building a much bigger company. Yeah,
no, it's fabulous. I'm going to switch over quickly to Miranda to hear a bit about OCIM, and then open it up to her to grill you a bit more, Aneel. Miranda, tell me about OCIM. What is your investment approach there? Because I don't know much about OCIM. Now I will.
So really, as I said, I spent 25 years as a banker, really here in Toronto on the sell side. So working to raise capital for what I like to call like the really scrappy, tough juniors. My old investment bank carved out a niche, really funding those kinds of companies. I am now working for a group called OCIM Precious Metals, which is a family office-backed entity. And really what we're trying to do, we focus on gold and silver production, is to provide companies with some elegant and simple funding solutions. So essentially taking a look at a balance sheet and saying, look, we can help you here. You need some working capital. We can deploy it very quickly and very efficiently. So it's been an interesting shift from spending a lot of time historically on the juniors, which is important because we need those companies to feed into development, into production. But now my shift is really into the precious metal space, and how can we help to evolve and grow those companies. I know Aneel. I first met him 2 or 3 years ago, and really it was on the cusp of the project. I think you were just either building or in build, and so really to watch your evolution, probably over 14 or 16 months, has been pretty phenomenal. And given the market we've been in, and throw in COVID, that you reached production. And I took a look at your deck last night, and it's impressive. But I'm interested in hearing, you've got 60,000 ounce target for this year. Your vision is 150. Can you just talk about, like, I know you were talking, you've got a pretty solid exploration plan, but how are you going to do that? How are you going to fund it? What does that look like?
Sure. Yeah. So we think actually 60,000, our aggressive target for 60,000 this year, we can replicate that probably the next 4 years on the heap leach, which obviously generates a lot of cash flow. With gold at $1,700, we're making over $1,000 an ounce. So net of exploration, sustaining capex, and the revised feasibility work that we're completing now to expand to 150,000 ounces, we'll still generate about $20 million US of free cash this year, and very similar next year. So we're looking at a scenario where we think it costs roughly 100 million US. We'll know that by the end of this year or Q1 next year. That's what that expansion would cost us, 100 million US. Well, a 70-30 split between debt and equity, that's 30 million US of equity. Well, that's a year and a half of our cash accumulation from here till here. So we have the ability to self-fund our expansion and our exploration. That's not to say that you wouldn't raise equity at much higher levels if you wanted to expedite things or do something strategic, but we do have the sitting back, collecting our cash and funding our growth. So it's a very unique position to be in finally, when you transition from generating cash and not being at the mercy of the market. So it's great. You can just keep your head down and now focus on execution and we'll deliver that to the market, and it's great feeling.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Congratulations for that. Chen Lin, I hope it's okay for me to disclose, and I hope it's still the case, that I believe you're actually an investor in Steppe Gold. Why did you invest in them as opposed to the myriad of other gold companies possible around the world? What attracts you?
Yeah, I got in actually very lucky, very good, well-timed, just right after PDAC. Aneel and I had a beer at the PDAC, and I thought, wow, they're getting cyanide from crossing the border. So we got in, and then a month later, stock double. So Aneel, can you tell us when will double again?
Yeah, sure. Well, let's be clear.
So compare with you and other producer at the 100,000 ounce, relatively how undervalued you still are, and then give us some upside.
I agree. It looks 3 times undervalued, doesn't it? It's too easy.
Yeah, it's too easy. Listen,
you got to work it.
I'm working it. That's why I'm here. No, I think the market will see that when they see our next set of results and ongoing on the production numbers, the cash flow numbers. If you can see how we turned the corner to being getting to net cash flow, free cash flow generator. But the pickup in April was us, the stock people getting out there. We were doing webinars and getting people to understand the story. We listed 2 years ago, May 22nd, 2018, at $2. Gold was $500 less. CapEx was still ahead of us, and permitting risk was ahead of us. We've built the mine. We've de-risked there's no permitting hang up, and gold is obviously favorably higher. So we're much more valuable today than we were when we listed at $2. So there's a lot of room to grow. And I think when people start valuing us as a producer, that re-rate, whenever it decides to kick in, it will be your next double, Chen, and hopefully beyond that. And that's only on our phase 1 mine, right? So now we have our phase 2 where we're going to do a resource and reserve update. We've drilled 30,000 meters. That will update the market on that later in the summer. And then the feasibility and exploration on that new project in Bayan Hunger that we've yet to drill. So a lot more action, I think, will create the full momentum that we're working on right now.
So the thing that was,
so I hear you have a lot of excitement.
Yes, it's going to be a busy summer. Exciting.
So I'm going to put my big company boring hat on now. BHP got out of all its landlocked countries for a reason. It's pretty hard. So you're landlocked, you're in Mongolia. They've made an investment in you, which is cool. But what can go wrong? Is it going to be geopolitics, or is it going to be something else?
Yeah. Well, we don't have to export our gold. So we've been selling our gold domestically and actually to the central bank, helping them build up the reserves and FX. So it's been great. So for us, sales cycle is quick. We get spot pricing, and we don't have to worry about the refining or exporting. So what risks are, I think, procurement, obviously with borders closed and restrictions and what's happened with COVID. Well, we've already shown you in March, when we think was the toughest time, we were able to bring it on. And since then, we've actually already purchased our next wave, and it's already on site. So we're good on the procurement side. Geopolitical, I think we've managed the risk by doing the right things from the onset. So we established the company in 2016, half our board are Mongolian. Today, half our board are Mongolian out of 8 board members. Our CEO is Mongolian, and all of our staff in country are Mongolian. So we're a Mongolian company listed on TSX. So it's very hard for people to poke holes at us or to even stop us from growing if we're showing the direct and indirect benefits to the local communities. So I think we've helped mitigate all that. And then the last thing is we got the government to actually invest in us. First time ever, the sovereign fund in Mongolia had made an investment. They put into Steppe earlier this year. So I think this shows that we have the support at all levels in country, and so we don't see the risks.
There, yeah. Well, that's great. Now, so somebody in the audience wants to know, Aneel, as a result, where is your view on where the gold price is going to be on 31 deck?
Listen, I'm very happy with the price today. We bought the mine at $1,200, so we were happy at $1,200. We're very happy today, so we don't need it to move, but we'll obviously, the fundamentals should show that gold should move. It has performed in the last few months as it should have, and now I think we've seen the bazookas of money printing ongoing. So I'm saying 1,800 to 2,000 this year by the end of the year. price of the poll.
Okay, so still got a bit of a way to go. Okay, cool. Well, it'd be lovely to lock in more than 1,000 ounces over cost. Well done if you can get that. Thank you, Aneel. Mina, could we move on to our next poll, please? So up next, everybody, we're going to be looking at silver. I think currently trading around 1750. It has gained, the price of silver has gained 19.3% across May, the best month, would you believe, since 2011. It has rallied from a 10-year low of $12.27 in mid-March. So it's had an interesting rally indeed. So what price do we think silver is going to be by year end? Is this as good as it gets? Let's have a look. And while we're thinking about how bullish we might be on silver or bearish, I'm going to be introducing you to Greg Crowe, president of Silver One Resources. Greg has over 30 years experience in the exploration and mining sectors, including extensive exposure to precious and base in North and South America, as well as Asia and Africa. We love mining for its globalism. Silver One itself has exciting silver assets in Nevada and also in Arizona, and is also listed on the TSX. Before I switch over to Greg, I'm just going to have a look at these results. So everyone still thinks there's a bit more to go for gold. 45% are suggesting it's got a little bit more of a rally to 18 to 20. Hi, Greg. What do you think? Are we going to see this rally continue?
Well, I believe so. I think, as Aneel pointed out, they're printing money as fast as they can possibly do so, and I think that can only be good for an ongoing bull market in particularly precious metals. And sorry, Aneel, but I believe that silver is going to outperform gold, and that's just the way it is.
We can talk about that gold-silver ratio shortly. Can we hear a little bit more, Greg, on what's driving the excitement for Silver One? We've seen the share price rally from 18 cents early March back up to over 40 cents today. What's going on?
Well, sure. I mean, we're a growth company. We're more exploration focused. We're not in production at this time, but that doesn't mean that we don't have designs to move forward to production. I think we're a good company with, a good hedge on future silver prices. And like I said, I think we're on the cusp of a bull market in precious metals. So we've built a portfolio up. We're a relatively young company, about 4 years old, but we've built up a good portfolio, and I've got a map here showing some of the location of our projects, 2 of them in Nevada, 1 of them in Arizona. The one I want to start with is our Candelaria, which is a past producing silver mine. It essentially historically, and I've got a good picture of the history of the project online there. There you go. So you can see some of the photos there. Essentially started production in 1864 and produced up to 1959 at an amazing 1,250 grams per ton silver from near surface high grade veins. It was de facto one of the richest mines in Nevada, and it's much richer than a lot of the producing underground mines today for silver. That was converted to open pits in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Kinross was the last producer, and they ended up shutting down in 97, 98 with the collapse of precious metal prices. Sold it off to Silver Standard, who assessed it. They did a big drill program, outlined significant new resources, which are now deemed historic. But those resources amount to about 44 million ounces of measured and indicated silver, and an additional 83 million ounces of inferred, with about 48 million of those inferred ounces sitting on the old leach pads, average grade of 45 grams per ton. So we're currently reassessing those heaps, doing metallurgical studies to see if we can bring those heaps back into production as a first stage in the redevelopment of Candelaria. Also quite important is, of course, the hard rock component on the northern margin of the 2 pits, down dip, high-grade intercepts. We did some drilling this year. We've got values up to 1,100 grams per ton silver, and we're continuing to assess the entire viability of the Candelaria project. Going to talk.
That's your #1 project, yeah? That's what you'd rank it ahead of Cherokee.
That's our flagship project, but Cherokee is an interesting one as well. We actually staked that property based on some pretty interesting historic data. We went and we looked at it. We traced some pretty strong vein systems over 12 kilometers along strike. The ground was open. We staked the whole thing. We're getting surface values in the northern end of the vein systems up to about 980 grams per ton silver and 4.8% copper. And at the southern end, we're getting values up to 1,800 grams per ton silver and 2 grams per ton gold. So it's very interesting early stage exploration. We're going to be in there this coming up this fall, and we're going to be doing a lot of continued surface work to try and outline some interesting drill targets for either later this year or early next year, COVID dependent, of course. Yeah. So maybe you can advance the slides. We kind of missed those. That's the historic workings at Candelaria. That's the big open pit and the leach pad that we're currently developing. And put up the last slide there, because I want to talk about the last project, which is in Arizona. We called it Phoenix Silver. It's an interesting one. It was brought to us. It's in a very active copper producing district, but historic silver producing district as well. Some prospectors had a property completely covered by overburden. They went up with metal detectors and they found these vein fragments, and look how angular they are, so they haven't come too far from source. The one big fragment there is 417 pounds, estimated to contain about 70% silver. We actually assayed some of the smaller fragments. We're getting astounding values up to 459,000 grams per ton silver. That's about 14,700 ounces per ton silver. And our job is to go in and try and find the source of these vein fragments, because there is historic production just to the east of us with native silver in the old veins. So we're actively there now. We're doing surface sampling, we're doing geophysics, we're doing geochemistry, and we hope to have drill targets outlined by the fall. So we're a pretty active company, exploration focused right now, but maybe Candelaria will allow us to jump into production, and we're advancing those projects as rapidly as possible. So that's Silverwire.
Well done, Greg. That sounds really interesting, particularly the last project. Sounds groovy. And then the history, amazing history of that region. US is, you've got to love it for the its longevity. Miranda, over to you. Sorry, Miranda, over to you. In this investment climate, is silver in your mind and heart?
Absolutely. You know, from the family office perspective, we're focused on precious metals. So gold and silver are our targets. I think, you know, on taking a look at the silver universe, there's only a small basket of companies where you could really get torque from the exploration, but companies that are evolving. So, you know, we're looking closely at the silver side, and certainly, you know, we look at production or near production. And Greg, you know, Candelaria is interesting, right? Especially because you've got those, you know, you've got material on those old pads. And what kind of timing could you know, there's other companies who have done that, who've moved. They had a lot of material sitting on old leach pads, and for a very small capex, you know, permitting, you know, aside, we'll be able to move those projects forward quite quickly. I mean, that's very interesting that you could turn the switch on Candelaria quite effectively.
Yeah, we've had discussions with the BLM and the Nevada Department of Environmental Protection, and permitting is going to be about 18 months to 2 years. But we are still doing our metallurgical studies. Those heaps were partially leached once before by Kinross. So, you know, we're dealing with some metallurgical issues. Original recoveries from the hard rock was around 50%, very similar to Coeur's Rochester mine in northern Nevada today. And so our preliminary metallurgical studies are saying we can get into the high 30s, low 40% recoveries. We're just doing some additional testing to see if we can enhance that before we make a decision to pull the trigger.
Right. Yeah, well, certainly silver is absolutely on our radar, Melinda. So
great.
No.
Well, thanks for that, Miranda.
Yeah.
And Chen, what about you? Are you a silver believer, or are we going to believe in the silver gold ratio turned itself on its head lately?
Yeah,
What do you think?
definitely. I think silver gold ratio is too high. This year it went to historical high, go to 120. I remember at that time, silver was trading at $12. So my talk was just talk to my follower, just back up the truck and then just buy silver at $12. Even though at that time in the March, I remember it was March, you know, silver may go down even further, but I feel at $12 it was a very good bargain. Unfortunately, it was the bottom. I went down as low as 11, I think 11 something. Going forward, generally in the bull market of gold, if you believe we're in the bull market of gold, silver can outperform gold at the later part of the bull market. So I certainly like silver. I like silver a lot here, and I look forward for silver to go much higher. I think at below $20, most of the primary silver mines not making a lot of money. So we have zinc, a mine that's shutting down due to the smelter issue in China. The zinc treatment went through the roof. And usually silver is a byproduct of zinc mine. So we have a reduction of supply there. And then silver price at current price at below $20 still too low for a lot of primary silver mines. So I see silver could have a catch up to do with gold going forward. Obviously, that will require we get out of this economic recession. Usually, silver, because it's industrial usage, silver can do better. Let me ask you another question, if I may, Greg. You mentioned you compare yourself to Rochester's Core's Rochester mine. My understanding is Rochester is doing this high pressure grinding. They seem to have a very good results. I heard from the CEO. Mitchell, can you do something? Would that improve your recovery or the speed of recovery of your heap leach?
Yeah, we've done two types of testing from metallurgical. We did some column leach tests on possibly milling very fine to 200 mesh and processing in vats. Capital costs were a bit high for that. So then we sent our samples off to Caps Cassidy, and they had the ability to test for the HPGR crushing technology. And my understanding with respect to Rochester is they're processing at an average head grade of around 15 grams per ton silver, which is very low. They were getting 50% recoveries, but I think they've improved that with HPGR technology. So we're evaluating that right now, and we'll see what is going to come out of that as time goes on.
Thank you.
Greg, we've got one other question from the audience, which is a fairly good one. If you've got a couple of years to cash flow, what's your cash at bank looking like? Can you make it?
Well, we don't have a cash flow because, as I said, we're doing our metallurgical testing. It's going to be dependent upon what our recoveries are. We're a little early on that. We haven't even got a scoping study yet. So the other thing that's interesting about Candelaria is the hard rock. Very interesting zones of high-grade mineralization that could be mined from underground, extensions to the pit. If we can incorporate that material into processing from the heaps, that's going to improve recoveries, improve essentially overall grades, and we're assessing that aspect of the project as well. So a little too early to do cash flows right now.
Cool, no worries at all. All right, thanks very much, Greg, for that.
I saw a question come up, and I think it was from Jacob regarding financing and our cash position.
Yes, so that's the question, correct.
Yeah, we did a very oversubscribed financing last January. We put out to raise about $1 million just to finish a drill program at Candelaria. We had over $10 million in orders. We actually raised $5.2 million. We've got about $6 million in the treasury right now. And Eric Sprott came into the company for the second time, big investor. He's our largest investor in the company. So that's where we are right now.
Great, thank you for answering that. Okay, so I'm next going to move on to our final corporate guest, which is Comet Resources, listed on the ASX, gold project in Mexico, as well as 2 projects in Australia, one being copper in New South Wales, and then now almost succeeded from the rest of Australia is Western Australia with a graphite mine near Esperance. I again believe this is a commodity that Chen Lin might consider favourably. I'd like to introduce you all to Matthew O'Kane, who is up at midnight. He has 25 years of finance experience across the mining, commodity and auto sectors. He's held senior executive roles across a range of private and public companies in Australia, US and Asia. Matthew, you're on if you're awake.
I am, barely.
Morning. It's tomorrow for you.
Yes, that's right. It's already clicked over. Yeah, indeed.
Like, tell us a little bit more about what's on it at the moment. Which project are you focused on most? Mexico probably, or are you border closed?
Well, I'm focused on 2 things primarily at the moment. There's ongoing network on the graphite, so that's sort of pretty hands-off for me at the moment. That's just with the test lab. I'm focused more on the copper in New South Wales and the gold in Mexico. So for the copper in New South Wales, we're looking to get out there, hopefully start the initial field exploration program in Q3 this year. It was meant to be Q2, but we all know what happened with that. So we're just still going through permitting at the moment on that because government offices basically shut because everybody was staying at home. And yeah, I'm really keen to get out there and test that because that's a brownfield project. It was mined historically late 1800s and early 1900s. It's a VMS deposit. It produced copper at 5% plus, 5% on average, 5% plus. And, you know, we've got walk-up drill targets there because there's known structures there. There's 3 lodes that were mined. They were open at depth when the mine shut. The mine didn't shut because the material in front of them was not economic. It shut because it was flooded, and that just caused the bankruptcy of the company at that stage. So that is something I'm really keen to get into because I want to test those extensions below the historical workings and then also do some ground geophysics basically to see if we can delineate any other VMS deposits in the immediate area because VMS deposits are quite cluster-like. They form in a number of clusters generally, and so we're looking to find more than just what's there at the moment, as well as test the grade on the historical stuff. And then with Mexico, I'm continuing due diligence on that at the moment. We just announced the transaction 2 weeks ago today, actually, and at the same time planning initial exploration work there. Again, that's basically brownfields. It was mined on the license just to the north of us historically, around about almost the same time period that the copper one was mined. And it went out of production due to the Mexican Revolution at that stage and has had nothing done to it since then. They mined about 100 to 200,000 ounces. It's a little bit hard to tell from the historical records on the license to the north of it. And there has been drilling on the license that we're picking up, which strongly suggests continuity of that mineralisation onto our license. They've had some really interesting hits there, up to 950 grams a tonne gold and lots of stuff above 20 and 30 grams a tonne gold. And so that is something that also I'm very interested in getting on the ground with. We've got to finish the DD first, and then we've got to figure out whether we can get over there ourselves or whether we can, or whether we're going to have to use, third-party consultants in country to do that for us. But so 2 extremely exciting projects for me there where, as I said, I'm not really starting from scratch. There's already a lot of knowledge of the deposits. There's already historical mining, giving me an indication of, the probability of an economic outcome here. And so, yeah, it's just the problem at the moment, I think, is, I can only talk about things rather than get on the ground and do stuff. And I'm looking forward to getting on the ground and actually doing stuff because, of course, that's what everybody wants to see, myself included. So.
Well, good luck with that. Miranda, over to you. Any questions on Matt's portfolio?
Well, it's interesting that you, and I think this will speak to one of your next questions, Melinda, is how do you manage, as a junior, you've got multiple commodities in multiple jurisdictions, and that is complex on the best of days sometimes for a major. So kudos to you for doing that. But I'm just interested to hear a little more how did that all come about? Did you take a look and say, okay, we need some more commodity diversification? Like, how did that all come up? Because you've got gold, copper, and graphite, which are, we've seen polymetallic projects, but to add graphite, and like, that's an interesting story to me.
Yeah. So I just joined the company in November last year, and graphite, the market at the moment is a little bit difficult. And so our project is looking quite interesting, but graphite's a niche market with niches within the niche. And so it's not only difficult to understand sometimes yourself, it's also difficult to communicate to the investment community. But it's a good looking project. But what I wanted to do was bring in some stuff that's more mainstream and maybe, a little easier and in that respect. And first of all, I was focused on copper, and I wanted to grab a copper project. We looked at a number of them, and we picked up this one, as I said, in New South Wales, which I really like because of the historical mining there, the known grades in the historical mining, and the fact that it was still open at depth when shut down, and it wasn't mined very deeply, only about 150 metres. And once we got that project, and then we were left sort of twiddling our thumbs on it in Q2 due to COVID, I then was just, looking and reading the articles everybody here has already discussed tonight about sort of currency destruction going on around the world with this just relentless money printing, and thought, well, if there is either a prolonged or a deep recession or a combination of, then the copper story may get pushed a couple of years. The upcoming tightness in the copper market that is going to arrive at a point in time. Was forecasting to be arriving in about 2 years for deficits in copper. Whether that happens now or not is a TBD, because nobody really knows how the economy is going to recover post-COVID. And so I thought gold would be a good thing to get exposure to, and we were just lucky enough to pick up this project through conversations we had in London with a broker in January. And so it was there. We like the parties that we're engaging with on this. We worked very well with them during the negotiations. And so, yes, it is a full workload, definitely. And how I manage that basically, though, is that I just manage the business per se, and then I have geologists on each project underneath. Yeah, so it's impossible for me. And I'm not a geologist myself. I'm a commercial guy. So, I have sort of project teams on the two projects, and I manage the business.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Chen Lin, where are you sitting if Comet? Are you still bullish graphite, given the fact that the market's looking a bit oversupplied for now?
Well, right now, I'm mostly interested in precious metal, but I open up for all the other different commodities. For Matthew, you have all the different projects, and then you have each project has a different stage. So what's your plan? You want to drill it out to sell the project to the highest bidder, or you wish to develop with maybe find a partner, or there's some other company even eventually become a royalty company when they, holding many different projects? What's like your objective? What do you plan to grow your company?
Well, I'll go through them sort of like project by project. With the graphite, it's going to be largely determined on the results of the network. And once we have that, we sort of, that's going to direct us. Do we do further work, or is the project difficult? Like it all depends on what the Met results are when they come back on that one. So that's sort of like just a wait and see at the moment. On the copper and the gold, the copper is definitely an exploration play. And so we're going to drill, and if we get good results from the first drilling campaign, then we'll be doing more drilling. We'll be doing follow-on drilling afterwards and extending the exploration across the license. There was another historical mine on the license as well, actually, but there's no not very defined workings or anything like that, like there is with the Gulf Creek mine. So definitely the copper project is, I hope, an ongoing exploration play. And with the gold, it would be something where we're looking to prove up the resource. Currently, it's got a 64,000 ounce resource, but that's based on a cap of 20 grams a tonne on the grade. And as I said, there's many, many, many intercepts above 20 grams a tonne up to 950 grams a tonne. So I'd be looking with that, hopefully, to build a resource north of 200,000 ounces. And that project comes with a stream. And so then I would look to be putting that into production. And where we end up and how many projects we keep in the portfolio is really going to be, as I said, determined by the results of, the network on the graphite, the initial drilling on the copper, and then the initial exploration work that we do on the gold license.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Matt, for that. What's your investor base looking like at the moment? Have you got any instos sitting on the register?
No, it's pretty much all retail and very heavily Australia focused and very heavily WA focused actually. So, which is, I think, a pretty normal profile for juniors in Australia.
Well, hopefully tonight there's a few people from all over the world on site.
That's
so,
right, exactly, yes.
Including, I can see a few people, even they did come in from Melbourne. So I'm impressed. That's 2 a.m. everybody. Well done.
Well, that's making me look even, that's even better.
You're a wimp.
That's right. Exactly.
Now I'm wondering, I see that Aneel and Aneel, you've got your speaker on, so I think Mina might have to unpick you. I was reading some interesting stats the other day that fewer than 530 companies out of 2,000 plus listed on the ASX have any research coverage at all. So I was keen to know, Aneel, first up from you, do you see value in paying for targeted analytical research coverage to raise your profile and to give investors a better understanding of both the drivers and the valuations if you're not getting it yourself?
Yeah, I think so. We have bank coverage as well, but I think that when you want to market your story and you need more eyeballs, you have to use the channels that exist there. And there's many retail investors who are equivalent to small institutions like family offices and whatnot, who don't have access to those platforms, the banking platforms, to actually read bank research. So the only way to get to the retail market, which is very important in all stories and at all stages, is to have more eyeballs on the story and through research. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely a benefit there. I don't think you need to go overkill, but if you can get more eyeballs on the story, for sure, I think it's worth it if it's done properly.
Thank you. What about you, Greg? Would you be prepared to pay for research, a corporate paid research?
I would be. I don't chase research myself, and we're not currently covered by any group there, but we have been looking at a couple of the larger paid for research groups, and we're in discussions with them right now. So stay tuned. That's all I can say.
All right, we will. Matt, what about you? What's your view?
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a place for that. I think it fills that interim gap where you may be not large enough to just get coverage anyway. But as the guys were saying, you need to get your story out there. And so, yeah, I think it's a useful tool at the right time.
Yeah. So Miranda, if you were to receive a bit of corporate paid research, would you throw it in the bin, or do you take it seriously as an experienced insto investor?
No, I would take it. I read as much as I can, as much as possible, right? Because you need to stay educated. You need to stay on top of what's going on. So no, I don't hit delete. I very much am keen on seeing on people's opinions and views. So it's how we make our assessment, right? You need to rely on external information. Eventually we do like to get to say we do all those things, but in order to be able to start, the ball rolling, these kinds of events are phenomenal. Meetings and when we could, but yeah, no, I take a look at what comes in, right? Even it may be just a scanning of the abstract to start to see, and then prioritize what I need to take a look through.
And Chen, what about you? Are you happy to read corporate paid research as distinct from broker driven research?
Yeah, I think it depends on the situation, right? Depends on the time, depends on the market condition. In general, in the bull market, the paid research seems to work because it's getting to a lot of people's eyes, and if people like the report, the stock can have a very good movement. So yes, I definitely would pay attention to the paid research.
Yeah, well, that's good. Now I think, Mina, have we got one more poll that we've queued? So I'm very amused because I picked my top pick for my second quarter commodity pair trade was to sell iron ore and buy the C3 Brazil, China, Cape freight route, noting of course that I am an iron ore aficionado. So CAPE is up 290% so far this month. I didn't quite mean to get it that right. And if freight is rallying, iron ore is set to come down any tick of the clock. So even though it's also at record highs and I am winning my pair trade, I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks that iron ore is going to do me a good favor and I'm going to win even more. But now what I'm thinking is, where are we going to sit for third quarter now? Can I beat that trade? So I was interested to get everybody's brain into this space, because I think we just do single commodity, but more excitedly is obviously getting the pair trades. And I think actually I should have probably picked the platinum silver one, because if you have a look at the ratio, that looks insane. But anyway, what I wanted to have a look at was, just where everybody's at. So sell copper, buy gold, that's solidly in the frame. And then also interestingly, sell gold, buy silver, in line with today's conversation, which is interesting. No one really cares about buying thermal coal or coking coal. And then the zinc iron ore and an alley lead, again, not many people takers there. So everybody's really still pretty bullish gold by the looks of it, 48%. There we go. All right. Well, that was good. Thank you, everybody, for participating in that. I was definitely keen to see everybody's thoughts. Chen, what do you think is your perspective on those pair trades, or would you have a better pair trade? Where's your head?
Yeah, actually, at this moment, I like platinum among the precious metal, right? I like platinum and probably on the older platinum, silver, and gold, because it's just relatively undervaluedness. And platinum right now is trading at half of gold, half of palladium, less than half, okay? And the largest producer is South Africa, second largest is Russia. They all have a COVID issue. So could be supply issue. And then starting next year, platinum can replace palladium in a gasoline car, right? And then we saw all these, in New York, Nikola is making a big noise, Nikola versus Tesla. If you know Nikola, they plan to use a fuel cell in the truck. We know in the fuel cell, there are at least 10 times more platinum will be used. So I see there could be, just on commodity side, I feel platinum may have a little bit more upside at this moment.
Yeah, no, I'm completely in agreement. Having looked at all the charts, I'm like, whoa, this looks like the easy play. And Miranda, what about you? What are your thoughts on what pair trade? Sorry, you're on mute. Amina, can I jump her off mute? Thanks, son. Oh, now she's back on again.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Very weird. Hello. Okay. Gold and silver, really. So that's our focus. In my previous days, we would look at really gold, silver, copper, nickel, on the banking side. But right now, it's the focus on the precious, really gold and silver out of the precious metals.
So you'd be saying, are you a sell gold buy silver or a sell silver buy gold?
So that's interesting. I actually got a report this morning which was talking about silver opening up here and a real opportunity. I think Greg talked about this, that we have a real opportunity here for silver. So really it comes down to assessing the company, the assets, and where we can get the best opportunity for ourselves from an investment perspective.
All right, now I'm going to switch over to Matt. Which way are you on the copper gold side? You get for third quarter. Are you selling copper?
I should say they're both great. Look, I think short term though, I personally think Q3 is going to be when the world realises that this whole COVID thing's actually probably dinged the economies worse than we thought. And so I think short term I'd probably be sell copper, buy gold.
Yeah, Greg, are you in agreement there? Are you, you're going to be gold, silver. Are you going to be?
I'm a gold, silver guy, and I believe in the gold, silver ratio, which I think is Chen Lin pointed out is way too high right now. Average gold, silver ratio over the last several years has been in the 60 range, and now we're sitting at close to 100. So let me put this question out to everybody. Do you feel that silver prices could double in a bull market? Alternatively, do you feel gold prices could double? I'm going for silver.
Wow, that's a call. All right, we heard it here first. Chen Lin, do you want to, sorry, actually I'm going to just ask Aneel first. Which way are you going to be, where are you just going to be buy gold all the way? So doubling?
Buy gold, buy silver. We have silver too, so we're a gold and silver. So, and as we go to phase 2, actually, we're producing more silver than we are on our phase 1. So we'll take it both. We're not picky.
Yeah, so we've got whatever, gold's very close to its all-time record highs after the last crisis. Do we think that it can stream through to 3,600? Wow, that's a big call. Greg, you are Super Bull. I'm not. I think. Yeah. I'll stick with my C3 cape on that basis. So, okay, everybody, one prediction. Miranda, what's your prediction for the next 12 months that you'd like to share? What do you reckon? Where are we heading for mining?
It's just really, as I said, gold and silver focus. And I was taking a look. Incrementum put out their big report in Gold We Trust, and they targeted 1,800 gold by the end of 2021, I believe. So I think we're gonna pass that. I think there's a real move here and an opportunity, and that's why the OCIM is looking at gold and silver, right? So I would say we're heading to 2,000 gold. That would be my prediction.
Cool. Chen Lin, what about you? Where do you think the world's heading in a year? What are you focused on most?
Yeah, right now the market very strange. Shanghai is trading a discount to New York in terms of gold price, which means gold is moving from the east to the west. Used to be the other way around. Shanghai almost trading at premium to New York. So big part of it due to the COVID. COVID hit India very hard. India gold import was down 99% last month, I checked. So, and then also in China, due to the COVID issue, the gold consumption is going down. So what I see is right now, gold is in the summer is weak, it's just gold mining is not, it's just consolidating. What I see after the summer, a few months from here, when people recover from COVID, we can see pent up demand of gold. And then that will push gold higher when the gold season comes, generally around September, October timeframe. That's when gold start to run all the way into Christmas and Chinese New Year. So I feel very encouraged for this setup, because even with all these drop of physical demand from India and China, gold is still holding around 1,700. And I'm very encouraged by that.
And I think actually it's a good segue into Aneel. Aneel, with India sort of struggling a bit with COVID, is that's going to be an interesting one for the gold retail buying, yeah?
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I guess we'll see in a few months, right? But definitely, I think buying has already increased significantly in India already this summer. So we'll see.
Yeah, leave it up. Matt, any predictions?
Volatility.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Geopolitical mess and volatility. Greg, what about you?
Crazy volatility.
Yeah, crazy.
But isn't it amazing, honestly, that we get used to it? You look at the major indices these days, and they're moving 2%, 3% days. I mean, that used to be super scary if that happened, right? And that is just normal now. It's crazy, the volatility at the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, there's so many drivers at the moment on the geopolitical front. Greg, what about you? Any great predictions before we roll it out?
Well, I'm a firm believer. As you know, I'm a silver bull. I like gold as well. And I think that we are at the beginning stages of a decade-long bull market in precious metals.
Woo-hoo. All right. So we are a doubling of silver. So what do we think? $40 for silver?
Now, I'm not going to say $40, but I'm going to say north of 20 very soon.
Okay, come on. I thought I could put you on the hook. Damn it.
You're going to have to get me back to give me a stronger prediction.
I'll get you a lot more whiskey up first. I need you at midnight. Matt at midnight.
Do it at cocktail time, Vancouver.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone, I'm going to round it up now. I've got two things to say. Firstly, as project manager for the Global Inspiration WIM 100 for 2020, I would be remiss if I didn't remind each and every one of you to nominate your most inspirational, trailblazing, above and beyond female colleagues before nominations close on midnight GMT, 30 June. You can find the online form at the WIM UK website, or simply click WIM 100 into your Google search. I look forward to receiving a nomination from each and every one of you. I have now seen you, so I know who you are. Thank you everybody for participating today. I think this is just such a fabulous way to catch up with all of you, and it's great because we can't see each other to be able to do it like this. And secretly, I'm actually hoping that, you know, it's worth continuing this sort of process post-COVID. Before I hand it back over to Andrew to close the event, can I just say that today we had some interesting news. We had Dame Vera Lynn pass away at 103, and she was responsible for the song "We'll Meet Again, Don't Know Where and Don't Know When." Lovely to know all of you and to see you all, and I hope we see you again soon. Andrew, to you.
Okay. Thank you very
Brilliant,
much for that,
thank you.
Melinda. Thank you very much to all of our guests. Our next episode will be 3 episodes as part of our EMA Americas online event, running on the 30th of June, 1st of July and 2nd of July at 5 p.m. each day. Hope to go and see you there. Until then, stay safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye, Jen. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.